Today, I'd like to invite you on a journey, one that's deeply rooted in Stoic philosophy, a philosophy that has withstood the test of time for over 2,000 years. We live in an era where desire dominates our lives. Our cravings for wealth, recognition, and material possessions seem endless, fueled by a society that constantly tells us we don't have enough, we aren't enough. But what if I told you that this endless pursuit of more is the very thing that steals our peace, our contentment, and our sense of self-worth? Let's begin with a simple yet profound question. How often do we pause to consider the cost of our desires? This isn't just about the monetary cost, but the emotional and mental toll it takes on our well-being. The more we desire, the more restless we become. Stoic philosophers, like the great Seneca, understood this dilemma centuries ago and offered us timeless wisdom. True tranquility comes not from acquiring more, but from wanting less. This simple yet powerful idea is at the core of Stoicism. Seneca's teachings urge us to rethink the way we view happiness. Instead of endlessly chasing after external goods, recognition, and status, we must turn inward. Let me share with you why Seneca's wisdom is not only relevant but essential in today's world. In modern society, success is often measured by material wealth, status, and external validation. Whether we admit it or not, much of our time and energy are spent pursuing these things. But despite our efforts, we frequently find ourselves feeling dissatisfied. Why is that? The answer lies in the nature of desire. According to Stoic philosophy, desires are like fire. They grow stronger and more insatiable the more you feed them. Think about it. When you finally get that promotion you worked so hard for, do you stop there? No. You begin aiming for the next one. When you purchase a new car, how long before you're eyeing a newer model? This endless pursuit doesn't fill the void within us. It only deepens it. Seneca understood this cycle well. He believed that excessive desires lead to inner turmoil and discontent. The more we focus on what we don't have, the more we suffer. And here's the real tragedy. We often achieve what we thought would make us happy, only to feel the same dissatisfaction creeping in again. It's a never-ending cycle, and one that Stoicism teaches us to break. Now, let's take a moment to reflect on our modern reality. We live in a time where we are constantly bombarded with advertisements, social media updates, and societal pressures, all pushing us to desire more than we need. We scroll through Instagram or Facebook, comparing our lives to the carefully curated highlights of others. We see their luxurious vacations, their expensive clothes, their perfect families, and suddenly, our own lives seem lacking. This fuels our desires for things we never thought we wanted. We begin to think, if only I had that, I'd be happy. But as Seneca warned, this cycle of desire only leads to mental exhaustion and emotional emptiness. The happiness we seek in external things is fleeting, temporary at best. In fact, the more we chase after them, the more anxious and restless we become. It's like trying to quench your thirst with salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. Stoicism teaches us that happiness is not something to be found in external possessions or validation. Instead, it is something that must be cultivated from within. As the Stoics would say, happiness comes not from wanting more, but from being content with less. So how do we shift our mindset from wanting more to wanting less? This is where the practical wisdom of Stoicism comes into play. The first step is to recognize what is truly essential in our lives. The Stoics were masters at distinguishing between what is necessary and what is superfluous. They believed that to live a virtuous life, we must focus on the things within our control, our thoughts, actions, and character. Think about it. How much of our energy is wasted on things we cannot control? We stress about the opinions of others, about whether we have the latest gadgets, or whether we measure up to society's standards of success. But these are external concerns, and according to Stoic philosophy, they should not dictate our inner peace. Seneca encourages us to focus on what truly matters, the quality of our actions, the integrity of our character, and the peace that comes from living a virtuous life. These are the things that are within our control, and these are the things that can bring us lasting contentment. By learning to want less, we free ourselves from the burdens of excessive desires. We no longer chase after material goods or external validation, and in doing so, We liberate our minds from unnecessary distractions. The result? A more peaceful existence. This isn't just theoretical. There are practical ways to incorporate this wisdom into our everyday lives. Start small. The next time you feel the tug of wanting something new, pause and reflect. Do I really need this for my happiness? By consciously practicing this form of mindfulness, we can begin to simplify our lives and focus on what truly matters. Another approach is to declutter your environment. Many of us are surrounded by things we don't need, possessions that clutter our homes and in turn clutter our minds. Letting go of these unnecessary items can bring a sense of lightness and clarity. And it's not just about physical possessions. Limit your social media exposure, reduce comparisons, and stop feeding into the culture of consumerism that tells us we're never enough. Ultimately, by embracing the Stoic principle of wanting less, we return to a state of inner peace. When we are no longer enslaved by our desires, we find contentment in the present moment. True joy and calm come not from external validation or material goods, but from within ourselves, from knowing that we have enough. This shift in mindset is profoundly liberating. It allows us to focus on what truly brings value to our lives, our relationships, our personal growth, and our sense of purpose. When we stop chasing after things we don't need, we open ourselves up to the possibility of true happiness, the kind that isn't dependent on external circumstances, but comes from living in accordance with our values. As we continue to explore the wisdom of Stoicism and how its timeless teachings can help us navigate the complexities of modern life. In our previous discussion, we delved into the power of wanting less and how limiting excessive desires can bring us true peace and tranquility. Now, I want to focus on a particular challenge that fuels our desires and disturbs our peace: the pressures of modern society and social media. We live in a world that never stops reminding us of what we lack. Every day, we are bombarded with advertisements, social media posts, and societal expectations that constantly push us to desire more than we need. We compare ourselves to others, feel inadequate, and end up chasing after things that don't truly matter. Stoicism, with its focus on inner peace and self-mastery, offers a powerful antidote to these modern challenges. But before we explore that solution, let's take a closer look at the problem. In today's hyperconnected world, social media has become a central part of our daily lives. Platforms like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and others have revolutionized the way we communicate, share, and interact with the world. On the surface, these platforms seem harmless, just places to share photos, thoughts, and moments with friends. But beneath the surface lies a much deeper issue: the culture of comparison. When you open your social media feed, what do you see? Curated snapshots of other people's lives, their vacations, their successes, their new possessions. You see influencers flaunting their luxurious lifestyles, celebrities showing off their latest purchases, and even friends and family members sharing highlights of their lives. In these perfectly crafted posts, everything seems ideal. The problem is, we begin to compare our real lives to these highlight reels, and inevitably, we feel that we fall short. This comparison triggers a sense of inadequacy. We start to think, why don't I have that car? Why don't I look that good? Why am I not as successful? These thoughts generate anxiety, dissatisfaction, and a desire to catch up, to acquire what others seem to have. And just like that, we fall into the trap of excessive desires. The Stoics understood human nature well, and though they didn't live in the age of Instagram or Facebook, their teachings are more relevant today than ever. Comparison, they taught, is a sure path to discontent. As long as we measure our worth based on what others have or what society deems valuable, we will never experience true contentment. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and a prominent Stoic philosopher, once said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." This is a crucial lesson in Stoicism. External things, whether it's material possessions or the approval of others, are outside of our control. What truly matters, and what we can control, are our own thoughts and perceptions. When we constantly compare ourselves to others, we lose sight of our own values, our own path. We start to live for the approval of others, chasing after things that we think will make us more admired, more accepted, more successful. But Stoicism teaches us to let go of this need for external validation and to focus instead on cultivating inner virtue. The only approval that matters is our own, and the only success worth pursuing is the mastery of our own mind. Now, let's address the second major problem with social media and societal pressures: the illusion of happiness. Social media creates a false image of what happiness looks like. It leads us to believe that happiness can be found in wealth, beauty, luxury, and status. But this is a dangerous illusion. The Stoics were clear in their teachings. Happiness does not come from external goods. True happiness, or what the Stoics called eudaimonia, a flourishing life, comes from living in accordance with virtue, wisdom, courage, and justice. It comes from mastering our desires, controlling our impulses, and living a life of integrity. Think about it. How many times have you scrolled through social media, seen something that made you envious, and thought, if only I had that, I'd be happy? How often do we believe that happiness lies just beyond the next purchase, the next promotion, or the next milestone? And yet, as we discussed in the first speech, the more we acquire, the more dissatisfied we become. This endless pursuit of external goods only leads to mental exhaustion and emotional emptiness. Stoicism teaches us to break free from this illusion. As Epictetus, another great Stoic philosopher, said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." True happiness comes from understanding that we already have enough. It comes from realizing that everything we need to live a good life is already within us. So, how can we apply Stoic wisdom to overcome the pressures of social media and modern society? The answer lies in one of Stoicism's most powerful principles, the dichotomy of control. This principle teaches us that there are two categories in life: things we can control and things we cannot control. We cannot control what other people post on social media. We cannot control societal standards of success. We cannot control how others perceive us. What we can control, however, is how we respond to these external influences. Here's a simple Stoic exercise you can practice. The next time you find yourself comparing your life to someone else's on social media, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, is this within my control? The answer will likely be no. Then, remind yourself of what is within your control: your own thoughts, your own actions, and your own character. Focus on living in accordance with your values, not someone else's. By doing this, you begin to shift your focus away from external comparisons and toward self-mastery. You start to realize that your worth is not determined by how many likes you get, how much wealth you accumulate, or how many people admire you. Your worth is determined by the quality of your character and your ability to live a life guided by virtue. Let me offer a few practical steps, inspired by Stoicism, that can help you navigate today's pressures and find peace in a world that constantly demands more. Number 1. Limit your social media exposure. Social media, by design, encourages comparison. Set boundaries for yourself. Limit the time you spend scrolling, or take regular breaks from social media altogether. By reducing your exposure, you minimize the temptation to compare yourself to others. Number 2. Curate your environment. Be intentional about the content you consume. Follow accounts that inspire and uplift you, not those that make you feel inadequate. Surround yourself with people and messages that align with your values, not ones that fuel excessive desires. Number 3. Practice gratitude. One of the most powerful ways to counteract the illusion of scarcity is to focus on abundance. Each day, take time to reflect on the things you are grateful for. This shifts your mindset from "I don't have enough" to "I already have more than enough." The Stoics often emphasize the importance of gratitude as a way to cultivate contentment. Number 4. Reflect on your desires. Whenever you feel a desire for something new, whether it's a material possession or a social status, pause and ask yourself, do I really need this for my happiness? By practicing this form of mindfulness, you begin to distinguish between genuine needs and superficial wants. Now, as we continue to explore the profound teachings of Stoic philosophy, in our previous discussions, we've talked about how the endless pursuit of desires can steal our peace, and how modern society, especially through social media, fuels this cycle of comparison. making us crave things we don't need. Now, we will take one step further by discussing how Stoicism teaches us to find true joy, contentment, and freedom not from external validation or material goods, but from within ourselves. In a world where success is often measured by the number of followers you have, the size of your bank account, or the brand of clothes you wear, it can feel almost impossible to escape the grip of external validation. Everywhere we look, we are encouraged to seek approval from others, to define ourselves by our material wealth, and to pursue happiness outside of ourselves. But Stoicism offers us a different path, a path of self-mastery, inner peace, and contentment. Today, I want to explore how we can break free from the need for external validation, let go of our attachment to material goods, and finally experience the freedom of contentment. Let's start by addressing one of the biggest challenges we face today, the need for external validation. We live in a time when the opinion of others seems to matter more than ever before. Social media, in particular, has turned the validation of others into a currency. With every post, we seek likes, comments, and shares as a way to measure our worth. The more engagement we receive, the better we feel about ourselves. And when we don't receive that validation, we feel inadequate, unseen, and unworthy. This obsession with external validation doesn't stop at social media. It shows up in our personal and professional lives as well. We measure our success by how many promotions we receive, how big our house is, or how many people praise our accomplishments. We crave the approval of our peers, our family members, our colleagues, and even strangers. But here's the harsh truth. No amount of external validation will ever be enough. Just as we discussed in the previous speeches, when we achieve what we thought we wanted, the satisfaction is fleeting. The moment we get one validation, we start seeking the next. The Stoics, however, offer us a way to break this cycle. Stoicism teaches us to focus on internal validation rather than seeking approval from others. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, reminded us that we should not be concerned with the opinions of others. In his Meditations, he wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." This is a powerful observation. The Stoics understood that seeking validation from others is a losing game because the opinions of others are outside of our control. We cannot dictate how others view us, and yet we allow their opinions to shape our sense of self-worth. This is why Stoicism emphasizes the importance of focusing on what is within our control, our thoughts, actions, and character. We must learn to validate ourselves, to live in accordance with our own values and principles, rather than the expectations of others. When we stop chasing external approval and start focusing on our own integrity and virtue, we free ourselves from the burden of trying to live up to someone else's standards. This is where true freedom lies, in living authentically, true to ourselves, without the need for anyone else's validation. Now, let's turn our attention to another major source of external validation: material wealth. In today's society, we are constantly told that happiness can be bought. We are bombarded with advertisements that tell us the next product, the next car, the next luxury item will finally make us happy. We are led to believe that material goods are the key to success, status, and fulfillment. But once again, this is an illusion. Just as with external validation, the pursuit of material wealth is a never-ending cycle. You may buy a new car, but after a few months, it no longer feels special, and you begin desiring the next model. You may move into a bigger house, but soon enough, you start imagining what life would be like with even more space, more luxury, more things. This constant craving for more is exhausting, and it leads to an empty life focused on accumulation rather than contentment. The Stoics had a very different view of wealth. True wealth, they taught, does not come from having more, but from wanting less. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, famously said, "It is not the man who is too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." In other words, wealth is not about the amount of possessions we have, but about our ability to be content with what we already possess. The key to breaking free from the trap of materialism and external validation is to cultivate inner contentment. Contentment is the state of being satisfied with what you have and who you are. It is the realization that you don't need anything outside of yourself to be complete. So how do we cultivate this inner contentment? The Stoics give us several practical tools to help us on this journey. Number 1. Practice gratitude. The Stoics believe that one of the simplest and most effective ways to cultivate contentment is to practice gratitude. Every day, take time to reflect on the things you are grateful for. These don't have to be grand or material things. They can be as simple as appreciating your health, your relationships, or the beauty of nature. By focusing on what you have, rather than what you lack, you begin to shift your mindset from scarcity to abundance. Number 2. Remember the temporary nature of possessions. Stoicism teaches us to remember the impermanence of all things. Everything we possess, everything we achieve, will one day be gone. Material goods can be lost, damaged, or stolen. Fame and recognition are fleeting. By remembering the temporary nature of these things, we can detach from them and find peace in knowing that our true worth is not tied to what we own or how others perceive us. Number 3. Live in accordance with virtue. The Stoics believed that the only true path to happiness is through living a virtuous life. Virtue, for the Stoics, means living in alignment with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. It means making decisions based on what is right, rather than what will earn you praise or status. When we live virtuously, we no longer need the approval of others, because we know we are living in accordance with our highest principles. Number 4. Simplify your life. Another powerful Stoic practice is voluntary simplicity. This means actively choosing to reduce the complexity of your life by letting go of unnecessary possessions and distractions. When we simplify our lives, we free up mental and emotional space to focus on what truly matters: our relationships, our character, and our purpose. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This inner sense of having enough is what Stoicism teaches us to cultivate. It's a form of contentment that comes from within, knowing that everything we need to live a good life is already available to us. We don't need more possessions or more praise. We need only to live with integrity, wisdom, and virtue. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the wisdom of Stoicism. Thank you.